Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday, and welcome back to the 21st episode of Power, Possibilities, Peace of Mind. And I'm so excited to have guests back on this week. As you know, last week I took a little break as I was working on a corporate workshop with Tina and Paula Strauss, which we're doing again on Tuesday, May 19th. And this week, I'm so thrilled to have on two incredible people, and you're looking at the first one right here. So Crystal Blanchette, she and I met over a year ago. we have woven in and out of each other's lives on a few different occasions. And really, when I first met Crystal, I was going through a leadership program, and she was at like the tail end of my experience serving food. And it's sometimes when you go to like a group environment and you're served catered food, you're like, oh, I'm not quite sure of the quality of it, or it looks good, it tastes good, but is it good for me? And as I got to know Crystal and her team, I was like, oh my gosh, they put so much love and thought into what was being served that it just made the experience so incredible. And then a year later, I'm working with Crystal side by side, coaching a leadership program out in San Diego, and got to know so much more about how powerful Crystal is and how compassionate and passionate this woman is. So I can't wait for you all to get to know Crystal Blanchette today. So Crystal, hi.
Hi.
So let everyone know who you are and who you be.
Hi, I'm Crystal. I'm a chef in the Los Angeles area, and I've been working in the private chef, the field of private chefing, for about 15 years now. It's crazy to say that coming out of my mouth. Anyway, so I work with high-end clients in entertainment and athletes as well, and so I work mostly in. Kids are like, it's like I'm doing this interview right now, and then as I'm sitting in quarantine, I have like children in the background, which I'm not.
Yeah.
So it's like you're like
a lot of people watching, they're in the same boat.
Yes.
So, yeah, Crystal has two little ones under the ages of 7, so they're having a blast right now.
They are. So like my mom ears are like, what is happening?
I think a lot of people can relate to mom and dad ears that are watching. So thank you for the reminder.
Yes. So yes, so right now, I mean, obviously things have shifted, but one of my main clients is Will.i.am, the Black Eyed Peas, and I'm really fortunate right now to be with Will during this time, and just adjusting, with my clients so I do mostly healthy food. That's really my focus, and just making sure that my clients stay fit and ready as they're either on tour or getting ready for, like I said, sports events or things like that. So that's where I am.
So tell us more. I love how you said, healthy food is your focus, and how, people have been adjusting during this time. What are some of those adjustments, or what were some of those conversations that, led to adjusting? Either was it the schedule, was it the food, was it the quantity, or the variety? What did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, it was all of the above. I mean, I had several clients. I had 12 clients that I was working with, and now I'm down to 1, and that's because I had to make the decision to isolate, obviously, like self-quarantine, like with my kids, and I didn't want to jeopardize my health, my children's health, or my main client, which is Will. And so I made the decision that my focus would be on him and his family. And so I'm basically, like, I keep saying, like a glorified Uber Eats because I like cook at home and then I deliver the food. So it's definitely, I'm in my car more than usual, but I've, adjusted to, I go to the grocery store once a week, and I make sure that I'm inside and not traveling.
Yeah. And, you remind them, you could let everyone know, Crystal actually has a staff and a team. So this isn't like a one person operation. So the first part of the adjustment is just it being her and scaling back to one client. So were there any other adjustments going on with the type of food, the variety of food, the quality of food, anything like that with navigating through this?
Yeah. I will say, that, I have the same kind of vendors that I go to. So the quality of food hasn't necessarily changed, but just, going to the store is so different, and like you said, scaling down, like with my employees and them having to like decide whether or not they were going to stay with me or they had to, thankfully they all had main clients as well. Mousy, can you please give us a second? Can you give me a second, please? Not right now, okay? She's 4.
Yeah.
We'll see how long it goes.
Mia's
That's Mia. That's Mia. So yeah, it was really with them just making sure that they were okay, and I had to we had things already kind of planned out for the year and money, and just all of these things. So, and because we worked in entertainment, that shifted, that whole entertainment industry shifted for us as well. Like we had several events, festivals we were doing. We had, believe it or not, we were bringing healthy food to a country music festival. We had all kinds of things that were happening that have now completely shifted, and we get to see what happens. So.
Yeah. And that's like, I feel like that's what we're all in that same boat, and love how, you had a relationship with, Will.i.am, your one client that is still remains your client. And I love how you said that. I feel like a glorified Uber Eats. And I'm sure he and his team, because it's, he has a team as well, are appreciative of still getting the high quality food that you and your team worked on to customize for his health and for his taste and lifestyle. So it's not just like you're delivering food. This is, you designed this with him and his team back at the beginning of your contract. So I'm sure they're appreciative of still sticking on course with what it is that they want, how they wanted to nourish their body.
Absolutely. And that's, like I said, I'm super grateful for that. Sorry, the kids are just at it right now. So I am super grateful.
Awesome. Kids are home. We're home. Yeah.
It is what it is. That's fine. But no, I am. I'm incredibly grateful. They're incredibly grateful as well, because that was a discussion for all of us. It's like, am I putting myself at risk, going to the grocery store and then even with the kids, having to keep kids inside, because of my job. And so it was a lot, and not seeing their grandparents who've been in quarantine. Like I made the decision that they don't get to see them because I'm serving a client right now,
That's great. So tell people more about, what it is that you're up to and how you work with your clients. And, I know one of the things we wanted to share with everyone watching today was really giving ourselves grace around food and our choices and how we're relating with nourishing our body right now.
Absolutely. I recognize that there's so many people, and my experience there's a lot of people right now that are either uber focused on, hyper focused on health and fitness, and making sure they get it right, or they're just consuming everything because they're in, this space and they're like, I just want to eat, and so there gets to be a balance, that we get to give ourselves grace and recognizing that this is not a normal space, and we're all in this together, kind of going through this together, not knowing, when it's going to end. And I think what we get to focus on is that if there's a moment where you're, having chips and salsa, and you're watching, several movies on Netflix, it's okay, if you have some Ben and Jerry's, it's okay to say to yourself, you know what, today, I'm just going to have a moment, and recognize that you're in that moment. But the key is to adjust and to shift out of that moment and recognize that, life keeps going. We get to keep going. and, get out and walk, the next day, and just shift your mind into recognizing that we're all in the same space together, that you're not alone.
Amazing. And is that something you talk about with your clients as well? Like, do they ask you, are chips and salsa good for me? Are they healthy for me? Like, are they asking you detailed questions like that?
Yeah. I mean, you'd be surprised, like, because a lot of my clients are seasoned, people either in the entertainment industry or in sports, and they still ask questions, like they have, people that they work with, trainers and things like that. And so, which I work hand in hand with them to create, either the diet or whatever plan that they're on in that moment. And so, which is interesting because I had to really adjust to or work through my own issues around, do I like a paleo? Do I like a keto? Am I more cater towards vegan? And I really had to let all of that go and say, what is best for my client? And because they're going to do what they want and they pay me, to do what's best for them, but they also are going to do what they want, And so when they come to me with questions like that, chips or whatever, can I eat chips and salsa and things like that? I'll say, it's your body. You get to make the choice on whether or not, this is important to you. And if we're on a mission, to prepare you for a tour or, you're going to the Super Bowl or whatever is going to happen, we get to stick with the plan of action, but we also don't get to feel guilty when we mess up.
Yeah. And it's like, I love how you used, a tour or Super Bowl right now, because that's what we're in with this quarantine. We're not that we're preparing for something, but it's like, we're in this thing that it feels like a super tight container, if you will. And we're for a lot of people, so aware and conscious of what we're eating. Maybe not in the moment, but overall, collectively, I think we can all say we're aware of what we're putting in our body.
I believe so.
It's in the moment, and Beth Osmer and I, we talked about this offline, not in our interview, but, she really landed the point that eating is emotional. It's not, it's more emotional than it's nourishing.
Yeah.
The body knows what it wants, yet the body sometimes a lot of the time is run by emotion. Mm-hmm. And you may not necessarily be hungry. You just might have something going on in your heart, going on in your mind that might need attention. And if you're not conscious or aware or courageous enough to address it, you might eat something.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so true, and this is a time right now where our unhealthy habits tend to come out because we're in isolation, and so like Beth said, it is emotional, but so when you take the emotion out of it, and then it creates this space of, this is nourishment, but it also gets to be fun nourishment. There are times where we food. I know there are a lot of people, my athletes, that'll they're I want the same thing every day. It works for me. And I'm like, great. Okay. But what would it look like if we added a few other things to create this wonderful taste as well, but it still fits into the body of what you're looking for, and so it achieves the same thing.
Yeah. And we know if there is facts, evidence, science behind eating being a lot driven a lot by emotion, that if the body is receiving the same thing day in, day out, that it's if there was variety in there. And I love how you said it's the same thing. We're still hitting the main ingredients and the pieces that you wanted to consume. Yet when we just add a little flavor, another spice or whatever, that's a way to maybe engage with that emotion that might in the moment or later. Can I have ice cream?
Yeah, exactly.
Can I have another glass of wine or whatever later? Because the subconscious, it just wasn't it wasn't satiated. That word just came to mind.
Right. I love that. And it's also, I work with a lot of just really awesome high performance coaches and health coaches. And a lot of them have either had addictions themselves or, have clients that they work with that have had addictions. So I recognize that exists, There is a sugar addiction. There is a caffeine addiction. Like I 100% recognize that. So when people come to me, whether it doesn't have to be a high profile, anyone comes to me and they're like, I'm addicted to sugar. I love sugar. And so we get to create different systems for them, for their mind, for their body, for their soul. So they're still being fed, and recognizing that sugar is not the enemy, right? It's whatever we have created in our mind, or whatever chemical imbalance we have in our mind, that's creating that need, for the addiction, and we're feeding the addiction. I know you had Curtis Jackson on your show recently, and I love Curtis so much because I don't know if he mentioned where he was with caffeine, and he went from caffeine to sugar.
We were pretty focused on meat and protein, and it was.
I love it. Meat and protein.
So
yes, I love that. So yeah, I mean, just with the two of us, we've had discussions around caffeine addiction, sugar addiction, and how sometimes like people will go and replace one thing with the next.
Yeah.
And so it's a real thing for us. Like, and so in recognizing that there are some people that just can't have it, and that's okay. Don't even go down that road. And therefore, like, I recognize where the paleo, or keto diets are so helpful for people like that, for sugar addiction.
Those are very, very popular. Talk to me about why they're so popular. What is the hook that a lot of people are like, I'm on paleo, I'm keto? Like, those are the two that I hear the most. And you mentioned the third, which is vegan. And Curtis was like, we're just on an all meat diet, meat and water. I was like, or meat, salt, and water. And I'm like, wow, this is very radically different. And I'm here to learn. So this is great.
Yeah. I mean, so Curtis and I have a few things in common, but one of the things we have in common, we are big believers in the blood type. Eat Right for Your Blood Type. It's a great book that was out, I want to say in the 90s, Eat Right for Your Blood Type. And I love it so much because it kind of, like I said, just that chemical, like, balance of what our blood type is asking for, in terms of nutrients. And it's interesting. I say this, I've had several friends that have been vegan, vegetarian while they're pregnant. And they're like, I'm craving meat. And it's the iron, it's the things that whatever your body will tell you, what you're lacking. And so it's interesting with, like you said, with Curtis, because he's like, meat. And I'm not against that at all. We've had beautiful discussions around, what meat consumption looks like and what it should look like, what it looks like before and what it looks like now. For someone that lives in Montana, and goes out and hunts their food, and, it's like a very, I guess, I wouldn't even say like American. It's very Native American in my eyes. Like, it's very, like, he's very connected with the earth and nature, and that's important to him. And so feeding off the land, and so if we went back to that mindset, and connected to that, I could totally, get behind it and understand it. And even those, like, eating fruits and berries and veggies, because I grow my own vegetables and things like that. But I believe, like, with the diets, the way that it works, it's just like any other diet, it's like Atkins. It's like, it works for some, and when your mind is like set on losing weight or being healthy, when you're like committed, 100% committed to something, it's going to happen. And I really believe, like, it's not about this diet worked for me and this one didn't. I believe it's mental. That's that's my personal experience.
I do too. Oh, an alarm. That's no, and I agree with that. And, one of the things where I was formally trained as a health coach years ago. And, I was fascinated with it because, I was a full-time SoulCycle instructor at that time. And it was just the high volume of questions that the riders were asking were about food, exercise, lifestyle, like sleep, all that great stuff. And one of the things like I learned, like the mechanics of that program, you know, were great, but the actual mindset pieces of it's not about, this is the piece that I really want everyone to really hear who's watching, is it's not about what you eat, but it's about how you're eating and who you're being while you're eating.
Absolutely. Yes.
What comes up for you when you hear that? It's not about what you eat, but it's about how you're eating and who you're being while you're eating.
Yeah, I mean, what's coming up for me is a lot of people will ask me, friends and clients will ask, you know, how do I just like start this out? But, you know, like I've been eating this way for so long. What's the best?
Yeah.
Right. And so it kind of ties into what you're saying. I start out simple. I'm like, start with, if you're eating on a large plate, start by like your portion sizes. Let's change your portion sizes and eat on a salad plate. Let's just start there. You know, it's so simple, right?
Eliminate anything or like deprive yourself. Let's just try a different.
Just try that. Exactly. So I usually start them off with that for 2 weeks. And then we eliminate one thing. So it could be sugar, it could be caffeine, it could be, but not all at the same time. And we do it slowly. We do it very slowly. Because like, again, nobody gets to go into shock, you know, and start having withdrawals. So, so I do that. And then also, I'll put someone on a cleanse. And whether it's a cleanse that's something that they've done before, whether it's a product that I recommend, or I always offer 2 products. I have one that I use. I have products that, you know, my friends have used that they recommend. And I always give people an option. Because the thing is like you said, once your mind is set on losing weight, and it's your being that's present, and it's not about losing weight, it's about being healthy. You get to shift that.
Yeah. And I love that piece about if you're committed, it doesn't really matter what mechanism, what diet, what you eat, but if you're committed, you will get the results because that's what you're committed to.
Right.
You know,
right.
weight loss or ideal or optimal health. Like I want to, you know, because for a lot of people, it's not about losing weight. I know people who are eating to gain weight. I know a lot of people who want to build, you know, bulk up. And, you know, and even women who are looking to become pregnant, like a lot of the doctor's orders are you get to gain weight.
Right.
So it's not so much about losing weight, but I know a lot of people that just want to feel good. They want to feel energized. They want to like feel great about their choices. And really one of the things that I learned intensely over the past 10 years is, you know, there's such a stereotype around like steamed vegetables or like steamed fish or something like that. Like, oh, if you eat kale, everything's going to be great. And I'm like, how do you know kale works for your body? Like, yes, it has a lot of vitamins, a lot of minerals in it, but does it work for your body? Because what if kale, you're allergic to kale, or it causes inflammation in your body, which is an allergy.
Right.
What if kale didn't do it for you? What if you couldn't absorb or digest kale?
Right. Absolutely. And that's why I said, like, it's not I really believe that it's not a one size fits all, you know? And so for me, I would love to eat a steak every day if I could.
Yeah.
I would. But the thing is, my body,
girl, I feel
but my body doesn't digest it well, you know, and it just doesn't. And so like, I've made the choice that I would rather not be sick, you know?
Yeah.
But it was my choice. And so I recognize where there are vegans in this world, or vegetarians that are like, this is the choice that I made because like, it's just not healthy for my body, you know? And I do love animals. Don't get me wrong, you know, so I am for that, but I love red meat, you know, but it just, again, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is.
Let's share with the audience, how do we know when something's not working for us? Like, what are some of the signs or symptoms? Like, because, you know, I always think everyone thinks the cure-all is a salad. Oh, I ate all this junk food today, so tomorrow I'm going to have a salad. I'm like, okay, how about we dig a little deeper there and like find out more?
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with a salad, by the way.
No, there's nothing wrong with a salad. But, you know, we, for years in the United States, right, we're now kind of looking to figure out this like pyramid of what's the healthy diet for people in the US. You know, it's as if like, we know like the Mediterranean diet, like they're like, they've got that right. Their pyramid is right, you know? And you know, when I look at people with allergies, and now we're talking about inflammation and gluten allergies and all of those things, you know, it's really how the food is processed, you know? So understanding what you're putting into your body is so important. You know, in other countries, they have their labels, you know, how things are, you know, if it's genetically modified, if there's hormones added to it, if there's such and such, and we're getting around to that. But that's really, when you look at it, what it boils down to. You know, I went to Greece with a cousin, and she has celiac. And when we were there, in Greece, she could eat all the bread that she wanted, you know, and it was, you know, as soon as we got back to the United States, she was like, I'm just going to test it out, you know, and realize it's risky. Exactly. And so the truth is that it's the way that things are processed, how our eggs are processed, how milk is processed, you know, people that are lactose intolerant. It's interesting because everything is about shelf life here in the US, because we have these massive refrigerators where we stuff food in it, and it needs to be, you know, it needs to last, you know? But what's so interesting, I remember when all of this first happened with, you know, the lockdown, and going into the grocery store and thinking like, wow, I feel like I'm in Europe right now, because the grocery stores, like the shelves just had minimal, you know, items. Like they didn't have all of these like different types of bread. You know, it was just like, there were like maybe 6 or 7 types of bread to choose from, you know, in that moment. And I thought, wow, we have so many options to choose from. How do people know what they should eat? You know?
Well, the unfortunate thing is they tend to eat what's the cheapest, what's
Yeah.
on the wall, and you know, which is not a bad thing, but it's not as research oriented to like find out what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
Right.
Going back to some of those symptoms and things, like how do you know if something is working for you, or actually if something is not working for you? Like,
yeah.
You know, like I might want to try eliminating this to see if that's the culprit.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you know, for me, I'll just give an example of my own, you know, personal experience with red meat. It was, I just felt so heavy, bloated. And when I say bloated, just my stomach was just agitated.
Yeah.
And it was, I wasn't having like regular bowel movements, which is important. You know, we don't think about that, but it actually is like, there is a regular way to go to the bathroom, you know? And so in recognizing, that's one sign. If there's something wrong with your gut, you know, and you're not going to the restroom regularly, that's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you know, right there. A lot of people have breakouts, you know, skin irritation. People don't realize that they have sugar allergies. It's not actually an allergy necessarily to gluten. There are people that have allergies to sugar. And so I recognized that with my daughter. We thought that she was allergic to gluten because she had you know, they gave out the doctor said, you know, the normal symptoms, rash, you know, in certain areas, little bumps, stomach irritation. And what we realized, it was actually the sugar. Her body wasn't breaking down processed sugar. Yeah. And so like, I mean, it's amazing, like I said, because you get to eliminate. So we went from, you know, doing gluten testing, to recognizing, you know what, it's not gluten. It's not the gluten, it's the sugar.
Good for you for actually digging deeper and not just assuming it was a gluten thing or just like, oh, she's a rash, it must be the grass outside.
Right. And that's the thing, right? It's the new fad is to be allergic to gluten, you know, and I want to point this out as well, which I've shared recently. You know, celiac is, you know, you have you're allergic to gluten, I get it, your body, inflammation and all of those things. But when you have all of these like gluten-free substitutions that are out right now, we have to remember they have fillers in them. They still are full of carbohydrates. Like, you know, so if you're looking to lose weight or to gain weight or whatever, that is not a healthy alternative for you. Gluten-free is not a healthy substitution.
Yeah, it just reminds me of back in the day when low fat came out,
Yes.
or low fat, which you and I both know, low fat meant more sugar
Yes.
and more additives, so that there was a flavor enhancer added, and that's chemicals.
Absolutely.
And as we move through the decades, our cancer rates kept going up and up and up.
Mhm.
And we notice, our ancestors, they didn't have, clearly they they didn't have these kind of cancers. And everyone's like, but they ate like bacon from the farm and eggs and
Mhm.
butter. They cooked everything like that. I'm like, yeah. And you get to remember that was real food.
Yes.
Real food from the farm down the street, real food from the farm, the garden in their backyard. So it
Right.
wasn't like you said, like that package process shelf life, um, so that things last longer, but it's also so things don't cost as much. So
Exactly.
companies add these flavors and enhancers and antibiotics and hormones to foods so that they're cheaper too. They can get more volume out of whatever it is that they're creating for people. So,
Right.
I mean, it's just, yeah.
Well, and people were also more active as well. Having a car was a luxury. And so I know on the East Coast, you guys have obviously public transportation, but even that, right? It's like getting in a cab, jumping on a train. Like, it's like we didn't have access to all of those things back in the day. So people were walking, and in full suits, probably sweating, walking down the street. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's a great point, because I love how you started off in the beginning that, you do work in tandem with your client's trainer and with some of your clients with their health coaches. And, it is a full holistic approach when it comes to the entire health of who we are. That it's not just what we're nourishing, it's how we move our body and how we're being. So even
exactly.
when I was a health coach, I would never dieting. I'm like, we're not going to do anything about dieting, but I'm really interested in how your body gets nourished.
Hmm.
What is it? What is the experience for you when your body is nourished?
Yes.
Because the minute people think about diet, it's like, I can't have this, I can't have that, or I can only have this, only have
Right.
that. And that's not fun. You're
No,
already
not at
setting
all.
yourself up for like another quarantine.
Right, right, right.
And it's not terrible, but wouldn't you want to set it up in a fun, easy way that you never have to do this process again? Like, you
Yes.
figured this stuff out, and now this is just your lifestyle. This is who you are.
Yeah. I mean, I had a professor in school that said, tell yourself you don't want it as opposed to you can't have it.
Wow.
And then, like you said, it shifts your way of being. It's like, I just don't want that,
Yeah,
you
and what do
know?
I want instead? And not
Mhm.
necessarily food, but I want to feel energized. I want to feel like like pumped up. I don't know where pumped up
Yeah,
just.
absolutely.
But I know that's one of the side effects of when we're not nourishing our body. And I'm not talking about not eating. Nourishing is like you're getting
Right,
the right nutrients and food that
right.
will work for your blood type, your digestive system, your your DNA makeup. That when that's not happening, the first sign is sluggishness. We're just tired
Yes, yes,
for no reason.
absolutely.
No reason. You're like, I got my 6, 7, 8 hours and I'm still tired.
Yes, yes.
So,
And
yeah.
it's because, like you said, there is a balance between nourishment. You get to nourish yourself, and you get to exercise, and that's part of nourishing yourself. I have clients that are like, I can't. Like you said, like something's happening, and like I've been doing yoga for all these years, and I'm a vegan, and all of these things, and yet like I can't lose the weight, or I can't gain the weight, or I can't, and because diet still has something to do with that. But there's also like this extra level. Once you hit a peak, and I know Curtis has talked about this, like you get to like, there's that extra push that gets to happen, and you just keep elevating your health. It doesn't just stay at this kind of level. You just every day, like it's just another step further to your goal.
And I love that you highlight movement because we're all feeling it now. Like everyone's like wants to get out of their house. this is not because you are in a quarantine. This is because your body wants to move.
Absolutely.
Human experience is designed for movement. And I'm not talking about like a 45-minute like boxing class. Like I'm talking about your body wants to get out and be active and move.
Yes.
So one of my wishes through the quarantine is that people who up until the quarantine who had sedentary lifestyles, that you're now starting to realize how much your body wants to move. Your body wants to get out into the world, out into the fresh air and move. That's sitting on your couch like day in, day out is just, it's not what your body wants.
Yeah. David Goggins said something really awesome in his book. He said, there's a difference between, he's like, I don't want to motivate people, right? Because motivation fluctuates. He's like, it's that moment where you can relate to this, where it's so cold outside, it's snowing, and you go outside, to go for a run, and it's so cold, and you're like, you know what? I'm good. I'm not going. Versus you go outside and you're like, it's so cold. I'm going to go in the house and put on more layers and I'm going to go for a run. It's just like, wow, like that. I mean, that just kind of blew my mind in like, what is your motivation and it's motivation versus intention, right? My intention is to be like really focused on me, mind, body, soul, and so you'll go put on that extra layer of clothes and go for a run because it's that important to you to be in, like you said, in movement.
Yeah, that's that commitment you talked about in the beginning. And I'm experiencing it. Like I was not committed for 3 weeks. Like I started off the quarantine, like I'm doing like workouts all throughout DC, like running steps, like I'm Rocky and all that jazz. And for like the last 2.5 weeks, it's been like Ghostville. And I know I'm not committed. Yeah. It's not that I don't want the result. I'm just not committed to the result.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't make me I didn't beat myself over. You better
exactly. You get to recommit
today.
Yeah, you get to recommit to yourself because, and again, like this is another thing I share with people. It's about you. Like you don't have to prove to anyone that you need to gain or lose weight, right? It's about you. So you get to be connected to you and what that looks like for you. And once you bring other people into the equation, that's when you start getting in your head, like, I made this commitment and I told so-and-so that I was going to do this. No, it's your commitment to yourself. Because at the end of the day, you get to be accountable to yourself, and you're working out for you. It shouldn't ever be about anyone else. It should be about you.
And, tell us, and I love that. So tell us how your clients because sometimes when it comes to support and accountability, if we're not committed, there's resistance.
Yeah.
And they want to blame you or shut you down. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to switch anything. I don't want you to tell me what to do. And that's a level of, commitment there that you're just, okay, so you might not be committed. Let's look at that. So how do your clients move through a resistance and how do you support them through a resistance of, commitment?
Yeah. I mean, I will share, I'm really fortunate. I don't have clients like that. Because once they the thing is once they're hiring me for a reason, it's to cook for them and to keep them in balance. And they know if they're not, then it's on them. So I'm really grateful to be in that. Because I know
it's up to you.
The thing is though, I set that tone from the beginning. Like if this is why I'm here to do this for you, so I'm going to do it. If you go out and sneak a burger, that's on you. You know how we got this way, how it happened. And I'm accountable only to a certain extent. Like you get to take some accountability and responsibility as well. Now, but I will give an example with my children because that's a different story.
Yeah.
So with my kids, I have kids and they love to eat the things that kids love to eat, and so where do I get to, yes. Okay, perfect.
Like, ooh, is this our time? Is this our part of the show?
Yeah, she's dressing up in every single one of her costumes. That's
amazing. She's like, I'm not waiting for Halloween.
No, every single one of them. Anyway, so yeah, with my kids, one of the things that I do, I get to hold them accountable and myself as a mom. And I also get to give myself grace, like, and say, like, my kids get to enjoy pizza day, you know, they really do. And I don't want to be, or I will not be one of those mothers who, you know, doesn't allow my children to just experience life, you know? And so, my kids have access to healthy food, healthy snacks. So when they open the refrigerator, it's at their level and they can grab fruit.
That's so smart. The healthy food is at their level.
It's at their level. And
Yeah,
so, yeah. And so we do, that's how we do it. And then I've also, you know, they know which day, like Fridays is whatever we want to do day. So, but here's the thing though, for a lot of parents, they'll say, I can't get my kids to eat this, you know, or my kids like love soda, or my kids love, you know, junk food. And my question is, why do you buy it? You know? And then also, not only why do you buy it, it's that, if you're eating it, then you are not being accountable to yourself, therefore not being accountable to them. So the way that it works with my clients and with my children, I get to be accountable to myself. Therefore, I'm an example. So when, you know, if I eat a burger, I don't feel bad about it, because I know that I get to be accountable to myself. I get to give myself grace. I get to enjoy my life. But I also get to be on track. And so that's where, I guess, even with my clients, is that I hold them to the same standard that I hold myself.
Amazing. And it sounds like it's working.
Yeah. I mean, I like to believe so.
Yeah. So, Crystal, is there anything else you want to share with everyone watching before we say goodbye today? Anything else?
I do. So my book is coming out. I wrote actually a breastfeeding book. Just a breastfeeding book.
Yeah. So not only is she a chef, she's a mama chef. I love it.
So I wrote a book. It's called A Tale of Two Titties.
So we know it's not for kids.
We know it's not for kids. It'll be available at barnesandnoble.com on Friday, Mother's Day weekend. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's just a funny, just illustrated stories about life, breastfeeding and bottle feeding, formula feeding, things like that. And it's just fun. It's lighthearted, and I'm really excited about it. So
yeah, so you get to pop the link, the Barnes & Noble link, and any information you want about the book here in the comments, because that title is hysterical, and you got two proofs of experience.
I do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Love it. So thank you so much, Crystal, for joining us today. This was such a great conversation around food and nourishment. And really, you know, what I'm taking away from this is that commitment level to what it is that I really want. You know, because as I just shared, I fell off for 2 weeks, and I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't beating myself up, but it just reminded me that, I just wasn't committed.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
be graceful around it as well.
Yes, 100%. We get to give ourselves grace. And I will say, I'd love to say that I came up with that, but I didn't. It came from one of my beautiful friends, Carrie Stanley, who just kind of, you know, gave me that coaching.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Crystal, Chef Crystal. I love it. You can find Chef Crystal on her Instagram, which is up here in the post somewhere. We'll put it again in the comments. Her book, The Tale of Two Titties,
yes,
is coming out this Friday. A book about breastfeeding, bottle feeding, and some motherhood antics. An illustrated book through Barnes & Noble. She already popped the link in the comments. And Crystal, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your experience, and your just who you be. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tiff. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we'll see everyone on Thursday at 12:30 again live for Power, Possibilities, Peace of Mind. Thank you, Crystal, and have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.